Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. Well, if you've been watching the news, then even if you haven't been watching the news, if you're on social media, chances are you've heard something about Ukraine conducting incursions, attempted invasions into Russia in the last few days. Uh, yeah, my hair is kind of messy. Yeah, I'm just kind of leaving it that way for today. I'm off work. So it's like, hey, I've got a lot of hair for coming on 62 years old. Um, not ashamed. All right. Mostly the groups that are conducting this are what the Free Russian Army and the Russian Democratic Forces. We've heard these names before. These are the same groups that tried this before and just got completely, absolutely defeated. Uh, and the Ukrainian government at that time tried to separate themselves from this and say, well, they're not government forces, but here these forces have been and are now using NATO equipment and Ukrainian manufactured drones to conduct these attacks, and there have been attempted missile attacks. Uh, so basically, it comes down to something like three small villages, about three, maybe four small villages that are on the Russian border, especially in the Belgorod region, that they have managed to occupy, often temporarily. Uh, and oh, by the way, all of those groups are also uh, very strongly tied to neo-Nazi ideology. Also, pay attention to that point. Even I think the New York Times. I think it was the New York Times reported on this. Maybe it wasn't the New York Times, but one major Western media source even admitted that these groups are tied to neo-Nazi ideology. So I'm not making this up. It's not Russian propaganda. When Western media is reporting the same thing, then you can't use that. Um, anyway, uh, of the drone and missile attacks, there have been claims that it's been they've been attacking all over Russia. No, it hasn't been all over Russia. It's in Western Russia, up to the line of Moscow, and no further than that. For to attack all of Russia, the largest, the country with the largest land area on Earth. No, you're not. They're not. Ukraine is not attacking uh, all of Russia. You got the Siberian region, the Arctic region, and so forth. There have been some two or three successful attacks that have hit Russian oil production facilities, refineries, but even that damage and there's this talk about they're destroying Russian you know energy capacity. No, the damage has been minor and will take mere days to fix. And again, Russian energy production is not limited to Western Russia because they've got oil and gas facilities and refineries over in Siberia and the Arctic regions, at least drilling in the Arctic regions. No, they and even if you claim that this damage is catastrophic or whatever, it really impacts less than 5% of Russian, refining capacity. Less than 5%. So, no, you're not doing that. All right. So, these attacks, if you pay attention, have been timed on purpose to coincide with the Russian elections. So why they think they're actually going to successfully interfere in the Russian elections, but today is the last day of the Russian elections. And as of yesterday, over 60% of the voting, registered voters had already voted. And they expect the highest turnout this year that they've ever had before. Far more than any previous year. In their last election, I think they had 68%, between 68 and 69% turnout. Can you even imagine 68 to 69% of registered American voters kind of turning out to vote? We average around 47%. In the 2020 election, I think it went to 51%. That's it. That's all. So, and so 60% would be enough to determine the results of the election. So they haven't done that. And the voting was still going on today, even in the occupied regions or the areas in Belgorod, right around there, and the 4 new regions, Zaporozhye, Donetsk, Luhansk, so all this voting has still been going on. Yeah, and yes, Crimea. So they haven't managed to interfere with the elections. Now, the Russian response, I do feel, has been restrained as of now because of the elections. Because Putin would not want to enact a strenuous response to this if he loses the election, which is just not going to happen. He has tremendous support in Russia, and the results of the vote are going to show that. But even if you just take general polls of Russians, you find out that he has tremendous support. Imagine a president with over 70% popular support, and I think it's much higher than that. The biggest criticism against Putin, as far as the conflict has been concerned, has been that he has not been aggressive enough. Anyway, whether Putin wins or someone else does, I completely expect that the response to these incursions, as soon as the election is over, are going to be really strong. The retribution for these attacks is going to be really something to see. Some people say that this is meant to be these are supposed to be diversionary attacks to try and draw Russian forces from other front lines in Ukraine. And that's not what's happening. That's not what's going to happen. These attacks are being responded to by Russian territorial defense forces and Russian regular military forces that have not been deployed to Ukraine, which is a considerable amount of force. They don't need to draw forces from other front lines in Ukraine. The other point to consider is that this is all happening while Russian forces are forcing Ukrainian forces back along the entire line of contact in Ukraine, all the way down, from the Russian border all the way down. The Russians took Avdiivka not long ago. Keep in mind, Avdiivka was the most militarily fortified city on the entire planet. Ukraine had spent 8 years building up the fortifications in Avdiivka. Now, I'm not going to claim that this, some people will claim that this was some miraculous lightning speed, defeat that happened. But no, this was part of taking Avdiivka was more of a process, which involved, taking other areas around there, including Bakhmut, which acted as supply lines and so forth and so on. And in that process, they weakened the Ukrainian forces. Over 100,000 Ukrainian troops were lost trying to hold on to Bakhmut alone. So it was not just, the Russians just came in and took Avdiivka and that was it. No, that was part of a long process which was well planned out. They intended to, take these other corollary locations first, block off supply lines, reduce the effective force of Ukrainian forces, reduce their abilities. So while the Russian military is forcing back the Ukrainian military, the Ukrainians decide that they're going to attack civilian populations along the Russian border. And keep in mind, this was planned because Ukraine was evacuating their own settlements in the areas bordering Russia. For weeks, they had been evacuating locations along that area. So this was planned. So they intended to attack civilian regions. They intended to attack civilians. And in this, they have at least tried to bomb hospitals and schools. Why? Russia targets military infrastructure. If they were not attacking, if Russia was not targeting civilian infrastructure, then why hasn't the Ukrainian Duma, the presidential palace, and so forth, why are those still standing? They've absolutely proven that they could do this if they wanted to. They could land missiles right there in Maidan Square. Western media has admitted that Ukraine doesn't have any effective air defense remaining. They don't. So why are they trying to attack and invade and try to take territory in Russia? Doesn't this absolutely defeat their argument that they are defending their territory? This absolutely obliterates that argument. What is this doing? What these incursions really amount to are nothing more than a PR stunt by Ukraine to turn to their Western backers and say, look, we can do something effective. But here's the tragic part. In this effort, the troops and materiel being used are being diverted away from front lines. They are literally sacrificing Ukrainian lives on the front lines that are being pushed back, being defeated, which these troops and materiel could be defending against. So they are sacrificing again, once again, they are sacrificing Ukrainian lives for the sake of a PR stunt to try and get more money and more weapons, which we already know much of the weapons, 1/3 of the weapons might make it to the front lines by some reports that we give to them. The corruption is out of control. Much of the money that is sent to Ukraine never makes it where it's supposed to go, to pensions and to military salaries and all of this kind of thing, all of this stuff that they're supposed to be buying. And by the way, the European Union said that of the million shells that they were supposed to be sending to Ukraine, which only about a little over half of that number has been delivered by this point. They said, no, we're not giving you these for free. We'll maybe 1/3 of those we're giving you for free. The rest of them you need to buy. You need to pay for this. So that was what the European Union said. So it's not all just free stuff that they're giving. And the United States, Lend-Lease program, it's driving up Ukrainian debt. But what we have given them has driven up American debt. And it will continue. We'll keep defending them to the last Ukrainian. Well, you're kind of coming to that. Zelensky says that they've only lost 31,000 troops since February of 2022. Nobody believes that number. Nobody at all. When they started their summer campaign, which was supposed to be a spring campaign last year, in the first 2 weeks, the New York Times reported that they lost 26,000 troops in the first 2 weeks. But they've only lost 31,000 since February of 22. No. Russian estimates of Ukrainian losses are 440,000. And those are immediate casualties. That you cannot estimate how many, succumb to injuries later after the fact. It is time for Ukraine to sit down and have peace talks. At this point, they are taking an extreme risk with these incursions. The Russian response may very well be either to convert the special military operation, SMO, into an ATO, anti-terrorist organization, which is much more forceful than the special military operation. Or they could, the Russian Duma could very well declare war against Ukraine. And then it's not going to be restrained anymore. And no, the West is not going to have the personnel, and especially not the equipment and ammunition or the productive capacity for NATO to confront Russia. Western media has made this clear. We know this. So it is time for peace talks. Stop with the PR stunts. Stop killing your own people. Stop attacking civilians. Sit down and talk. And by the way, Russia's having an election. Ukraine is not. You notice that? You're defending democracy. You know, that's what you keep on hearing. We're defending democracy. But Ukraine's not having an election. They canceled their elections. This month is supposed to be the end of Zelensky's term in office. The same month as the Russian elections. But Russia's having elections, Ukraine is not. So how are you defending democracy? Think about these things. All right. Share this video. Talk about these subjects. Think about these subjects. If you can afford it, please donate whatever you can to help expand this channel and my presidential campaign. And I will catch you in the next one. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a good day.